Thank you, everybody. This is a wonderful evening, one of the most important evenings of my life, and I have you all to thank for that. It's nice to be able to have a career and to be honored by the people that were in your career, in your profession, and in closely associated professions. I think we all share the game of golf, and it's such a wonderful thing to have. My sometimes loud grandson back there is taking some license tonight, and I'll be with him at the end, so I'll be sure he doesn't ruin too many other speeches. But he and my daughter live in Munich, Germany, and they flew in especially for this trip. So bless them for that. I have to thank Phil Kamak. I think that he's come down and presented my case for a long, long time. I think when he started to do that, I had some hair. But he was wonderful to take the time and effort to do that. A lot of it I didn't realize until just recently, but thank you, Phil, for that. And to all the wonderful people that are here, Randy Waller, who talked so nicely on the video there, our superintendent at Knollwood for most of the time that I was there, some 25 years. Thank you, Randy, and for the people, Bob Johnson, other people that have come from Knollwood. It was a wonderful experience to be with you and to work with you there. I certainly agree with Steve Benson and tried as hard as I could to be like Steve and to have the folks that worked for me enjoy the experience and moved on to either careers in golf or other careers where the background they had working with me and the wonderful members that I was able to serve would help them in their career, and I think it really did. And I thought I'd just share a few things around my career that meant something to me, that were special. I think I was born to be a golfer when I first started playing the game. I was 13, and I had caddied for my dad a few times, but never really was involved in the game, and I played with a couple pals of mine. We played our first round of golf at the Evanston Community Golf Course, which we affectionately call Stinky Valley, which is, if you've ever played there, it's a kind of a sewage canal that runs through Evanston, that runs through the golf course. And we still play today, the three of us. And it's really thrilling to have pals like that I've known through the years. And most everybody in this room is connected with golf in one way or another. And I think that's what my life has been, is hopefully a celebration of the game with the people that I run across, and the wonder of the game and the ability to play the game and to make friends through it. One of my earliest experiences, I played in the Chicago District Boys Tournament. It's no longer a competition that they run, but it was run for boys that were under 16 years of age. I played in my first boys tournament when I was 14. We played at Northmore, and I shot 99, and I was thrilled. And I waited around because I had had an early tee time, and they were crossing off the scores, 106, 105. Finally, they got down to 99, and there were like 8 of us for the last spot. And boy, I said, my God, I got to go back out. I've waited here all day. And fortunately, the other 7 guys went home in disgust. So I got the first, I was the first alternate without even having to put the peg in the ground, and I got murdered in the first round. But it was a wonderful experience. And the next year, they played this tournament at Ravislow, and this was the nice thing that Steve Benson mentioned. Living in Evanston, it was a long way to Ravislow. I think Ravislow was just north of the Alabama border. in those days. And my dad and I would get up in the morning and we'd get a friend of mine who was a caddy from Westmoreland, as I was, a caddy at Westmoreland. And we'd hop in the car and we'd get on the toll road and put in our 40 cents, and might have been a quarter in those days. And he made egg salad sandwiches, and we would drive down to Ravenslow first to qualify and then to play the first day in the tournament. I think there was just one match that day, and I was lucky enough to win. And then the next day, there were 2 matches, and this was my 3rd day of egg salad, and it was great. Every sandwich was great, and I happened to win that day. And I think the last day there were 2 more matches. I think this is something like that. It seemed to go on for weeks. It was probably only 1 match. But anyway, I remember a lot of matches. And the last match in the finals was against Steve Benson, Steve Benson's brother, Ken, pardon me. And Ken's in the room, and I'm excited about seeing Ken today. I remember I was there with my dad and my caddy, and there were 475 people watching the finals. And the only 3 knew who I was. The others were for Steve, who had lost in the finals of this tournament the last 2 years in a row. This is his 3rd time in the finals, which is unheard of. I don't think it ever happened before or since. And I was lucky enough to prevail that day, but I do remember young Steve, and I do remember Bill Erfurth and how cordial and friendly all the folks were from Lincolnshire Country Club, who had come over to Ravenslow, which is just around the corner. And that was a great experience. That was a wonderful camaraderie with my dad, a wonderful time to compete. And fortunately, I made a few putts, and made me think maybe I could keep playing the next year. So I did, and I worked for Johnny Gibson. He's another wonderful man that has since passed away, but certainly a Hall of Fame member in my mind. He gave me the only golf lessons I've ever had, as Bill Erfurth worked with Steve Benson. Johnny was a fine player. One of the greatest experience I ever had was caddying for him in the U.S. Open. I was 16, and it was at Medina. It was 36 holes in the rain. I believe Johnny shot 149, which did not make it. But we fought hard, and I wiped that golf ball up so many times in that rain, I can't tell you. But in our group was Charlie Sifford, and those of you who know that name, a wonderful black golfer who was the medalist that day. I believe he shot 144 around Medina 1 and 3. I went with Johnny to several wonderful PGA events early on, where I met people like Ziggy Troy and Harry Pizzullo. And I remember going down to one of the big hotels in Chicago. I'm not sure if it was the Congress Hotel, but Arnold Palmer was there one fall meeting, and I remember Byron Nelson was once there. I remember many times out on Lake Michigan in the spring, we would warm up the city of Chicago with Tribune golf clinics, and there were maybe 50 golf professionals out there, all swinging with several hundred people from the city of Chicago. Always dedicated to the game, always working, and I always felt that once I finished school and came back, and if I didn't win the U.S. Open my first try, I'd become a golf professional. And I didn't win it, and I became a golf professional in Illinois, which was always my goal. So that's the reason I wanted to come back to Illinois, because California wasn't where I had grown up and where I knew so many wonderful people. Another great experience I had was with the National PGA, which is we had in 1989. Steve Lesnick and Jim Kemper and so many wonderful people from the Kemper organization were involved in that. I was fortunate enough to be a member of the executive committee at the Illinois PGA, and I was on the Future Sites Committee. And the PGA of America has a wonderful situation in that 5 years, I think, maybe it was 4 years, 4 years previous to your tournament, you go to the tournament that's being played. So we went to the PGA Championship 4 different times, and my committee was junior volunteers. And so I was at Palm Beach Gardens for the PGA Championship, and at Edmond, Oklahoma, at Oak Tree for the PGA, at Cherry Hills, and also at Inverness for the 4 years prior to ours at Kemper Lakes. And I listened to the chairman of Junior Volunteers. They'd come the week of the tournament, and they'd tell you what happened today and what they would have done if they could have done it differently and if they had more time. And what a great experience that was, particularly to work with, to travel with the wonderful people from Kemper and all, and then to write letters to everybody in Illinois. By everybody, I should say the golf coaches of all the high schools all throughout the state of Illinois, boys and girls. And we said, please come to Illinois, get your school to pay for it, and you can come to the PGA Championship, and if you'll spend a day with us, we'll let you watch the tournament for half the day, and the other half of the day you can carry a standard for some of the players or change some of the numbers on scoreboards around the golf course. And we really needed those junior volunteers because that was a very rainy week. It seems to me we had sirens blowing from the practice round right through the final round of the tournament. There were delays every single day. The people could not get a full round in every day without some kind of a delay. But what a wonderful experience that was. And one little sidelight was that when you have a commitment to the National PGA, at least in those days, you also said you would host in your section, in your area, or your golf course, the Grand Slam of Golf and the PGA Cup matches, which Steve Benson talked about. And I certainly agree with Steve. One of the greatest experiences of my life was that we hosted the PGA Cup matches at Knollwood. And if I remember correctly, Steve was up there helping us be a referee and show a presence from the Illinois section. One of the great things about that PGA Championship was that it was the first time, except for Pebble Beach, when a private club was not the host, when a public course was the host. And so the committee chairmen were all members of the PGA. There weren't members in those days of Kemper Lakes other than kind of seasonal pass people because it was a public facility. So the members of the committees were my fellow professionals, and we had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time hosting the PGA Cup matches at Knollwood, and I remember David Hush, who was a wonderful golfer from Scotland, captain of their team. At the end of the matches, which his team lost, the sun was setting, and we'd had the flags of all the countries involved, and the Army, excuse me, it was the Marine Corps band, excuse me, Marine Corps folks. They played all the national anthems of Scotland and Ireland and England and the U.S., and presented us the trophy. And after everybody kind of left the tent behind our ninth green, I walked around the scoreboard and I saw David Hush, and he was looking over the golf course, and he had tears in his eyes, as I do today, saying how much it meant to him to come to America and be treated like he was. And Steve can tell you more about that. But that's another wonderful experience I had in golf that was so exciting and so great to be involved with this wonderful game and so many people. For your green superintendents that are here, and Paul's coming up next, I had a wonderful day with Paul years ago at the Jewish Relief Fund over at Briarwood. We played in the Pro-Am there, and we had a great day. I'm always reminded of Alistair Mackenzie's wonderful note in the beginning of his great book, which he wrote in 1927. He said, all of this nonsense around the golf courses with mowing and watering systems and rakes and stuff like that, he said it was nonsense. All a golf course needs is God's good rain and a nice herd of sheep. So if you guys are having some budget problems at your clubs, that quote is in his book. It's on page 1. I think about that all the time. I was telling the folks that my speech ran just over an hour and a half, and I'm going to cut it back. You're all wonderful to be here. I wanted to say that there's so many wonderful people that have helped me in my life. Nobody more important than my wife, Marty, who has been with me now for 45 years, I think. It's hard to believe that she would be with me that long. But I remember the days, Marty, when we got our first job at the wonderful club in Lake Bluff, Shore Acres. And Marty's mom, who's also here in the room, who just had her 95th birthday a week ago. Thank you, Opal, for being here. She and her wonderful husband, Art, inherited a golf shop that had many more spiders than they had golf equipment. And we spent the winter tearing down old walls and putting up new wall board and fixing the lighting. And in those days, the budget was what I had in my pocket, which wasn't a lot. The committee said I could do what I wanted to at the pro shop, but they didn't have enough money to help. Since then, of course, they got a gorgeous new pro shop over there. But we worked really hard that winter, and I remember early on when I was so proud of this new rug and this new place. It was just great. I think it cost the members and me a couple $1,000s, but it was brand new, and some members looked around the place and said, you know, I like the old place better. So hurting my thumbs all those times didn't maybe impress everybody, but impressed me. And from that day on, Marty's been my right-hand person. Without her, as anybody that's worked for me would know, that she's the one that pays the bills and does the payroll and smiles at everybody. And without her, I wouldn't have had job one. That's one thing Bill Ogden always told me. Two things I remember about Bill. One is he introduced me to a very important member my first day on the job. He said, this is a guy, Sherm, you're going to get to know really, really well. He's one of our best members. He's the most consistent guy around here. And he opened up the closet and he said, I want you to meet Mr. Hoover. And Mr. Hoover and I spent a lot of time running around that rug over there. The other thing Bill said, they're never going to hire you, Sherm. And not a chance, but if you put Marty in there first, you'll get hired. The story I always tell about Marty is that even though we're fairly close in age, there's a year difference. There are many times when I would be out at lunch or I'd be doing something when a member would bring in a guest, and I didn't get a chance to shake their hand before they teed off, but I'd generally be there when they came in, and they'd say to me, Sherm, oh yeah, Sherm, it was really nice to meet you, and I was so happy to meet your daughter before we teed off. So I hope you'll all get a chance to meet my daughter before you leave. It's been a great life for me, and you've made it a wonderful, wonderful, special day for me. I don't want to say it's the end because I've got a lot of teaching to do. I got a lot of people I got to help. I talked to Dave Stockton not too long ago last week, told him a little bit about this, and he's 70 years old, and he said, I got a new driver, Sherm. Well, I can hit it. I can hit almost as far as some of those guys on the tour, almost as far as couples. You know, wait till those guys see me. I still think that way about golf. Wait till they see me next year. Thank you.